As the film opens, we are aware of Chuck Nolan's life. Having been left stranded on an island, he chose to remain for 4 years. Please like, subscribe and press the bell icon on all. Chuck is visible as soon as the scene opens in a firm. He takes his work seriously. The officer requires and wants all couriers to arrive on schedule. Although the company has branches, he gets along well with his co-workers. He educates them on the worth of time. He traveled outside of the nation as a result. Chuck has a romantic interest in Kelly. Since their bond is strong, they are eager to get married. However, the rigors of their jobs prevent them from getting married. Chuck is on a business trip in Malaysia, and Christmas is quickly approaching. Kelly is reassured by Chuck that he will return on New Year's Day. Kelly asks, "How am I going to spend Christmas?" Chuck accepts her permission. Chuck and Kelly exchange Christmas gifts. Kelly gives him a watch with a fixed photo of herself. Chuck is now leaving for Malaysia. However, a storm suddenly blew up, crashing his plane. Moreover, it is one of the company's private planes. 4 additional people are in the aircraft as well. The aircraft then plummeted into the Pacific Ocean. Chuck is the only person who has survived, and he is flowing with the sea's currents. He wakes up in the morning to discover that he is in a raft. Chuck worries because he can't see anyone nearby. Chuck phones, but there's no sign of a human. He scrawls a large "help" on the earth so that any aircraft traveling overhead can assist. He goes to sleep as night falls. When he wakes up the following morning, he makes sure that the scribbled word "help" has been erased. He writes now with a piece of wood. He knows that someone will arrive to assist him. They will relocate here once they see this mark. Chuck is starting to become hungry, but the flowing bundles of company don't satisfy him. Chuck hears something sounding now. Glancing about him, he notices a coconut that has fallen. It dawns on him that the sound is that of a coconut. All he gets is a coconut drink. He drinks it to stay alive. Chuck has been here for 3 days now. Because of the rocks in the sea, his feet are also hurt. He has no shoes on. He cuts the half of his trouser and wraps it over his feet to protect them from agony. He chooses to ascend the mountain at all costs after spotting its top there. He believes he has a chance of making the ascent and believes he can effectively reach the summit. He now spots something in the water that is swimming. As he descends, he is shocked to see his aircraft pilot's lifeless body. He plans his burial while crying uncontrollably. However, before the burial, he always has his shoes and lamp handy. He had become accustomed to living on this island. He makes it through by consuming the dropped dew on the leaves. Despite his best efforts, he is unable to catch the fish. He receives nothing but coconut beverages and dewdrops. When he eats, he is dependent on them. He is really pleased when he sees a ship in the nighttime water. He switches on the torch as lights, but to no use. The following day, he makes the decision to depart from the island with his raft. He was aware that nobody exists. He drowns in the sea while trying to flee due to the powerful, swift waves. In the interim, his foot is injured and bleeds. When Chuck gets back, the rain also begins. He enters the cave after spotting one and spends the night inside. He illuminates the torch. The torch's battery drains when it is left on all night. There's no light source like a torch for him. Doesn't even he know how the fire started? When he returns, a few items from the company shipment that flowed with him are there. He only finds 1 or 2 things that are helpful when he opens it: skating shoes with blades on the bottom. He uses it to quickly cut the coconut. He can now cut through anything. He makes a pointed cut in a wooden stick. He manages to land the fish. He tries in vain to light the fire since he cannot eat uncooked fish. Chuck has an idea, and by rubbing 2 different types of wood together, he might succeed. And it occurs in the same way as success. When he initially arrives at the beach, he is happy. Chuck also noticed a football in the corporate gift, and it touched Chuck's blood. Using his hand, he shapes it into a human face by adding lips, eyes, and nose. He talks with him, befriending him, and leaves it next to the fire to dry. Wilson is the name he gives it. His toothache is the additional issue that arose there. Despite the continuous ache, he never has it checked out. Chuck decides to yank the tooth now and does so. And with it, he passes out. He stays on the island for 4 years as time goes on. He is aware of how to survive for 4 years. His beard and head hair are growing, which is negatively impacting his appearance. He appears weak. He was overtrained to use a stick to catch fish. Wilson had talked to Chuck on a regular basis, and Chuck had become his close friend. One day, when he's eating the fish, something sounds. There, he finds a sheet of steel, and he realizes that he can get out of here with this assistance. Every time he attempts to flee, the sea waves get in the way. He is currently building a boat out of coconut wood, even though building a boat was difficult. Additionally, he shields the sheet metal's front. He chooses to flee when the weather is bad. He starts to push the steel sheet forward while seated in the boat in order to force water through, and he might proceed. He gets Wilson into the boat and sets off. Even though he is traveling through large waves, the sea is still far away. He doesn't know when the land will show up. He thought he would make it to the house. It was not, however. Kids play. He must deal with the most difficult situation of the journey. He arranges the food items. He gathers rainwater for drinking and saves fish for sustenance. He uses the coconut shell to collect the rainfall. He keeps it secure for them to use at trying times. Chuck's football, Wilson, his pal, falls into the sea at first glance. When he is aware of it, a distance has been covered. He dives into the sea, trying in vain to save Wilson. As he gets back into the raft, he starts crying a lot. Wilson had been with him all these 4 years. Chuck had grown sensitive to it since. He is therefore grieving about this loss. Chuck was now quite exhausted from the lengthy journey, and his raft is passed by a ship. Seeing the sailor comes to his aid, Chuck was given his life back, but he observes a shift. Friends and family had assumed he had passed away, and Kelly, his dear friend, was now married. She has a daughter as well. When Chuck arrives to see her, she gives him a pleasurable embrace. Kelly is now married, so none of this matters. They follow different paths. Since Kelly's watch belongs to her family, Chuck returns the one that was given to her. He holds onto the picture of the watch. Kelly addresses him, saying, "You have promised to come back." He's almost done apologizing and leaving. Chuck still has Kelly, but she can't go because she has her own family. Kelly is driving Chuck's present car. Chuck departs with his car. When she gives it back, Kelly is upset when she sees him and chases after him. As a result, Chuck comes back as well, and they hug. Kelly tells him, "I know you're alive and I know you'll be back. However, I was forced by everyone to be married." They communicate their affections for one another. Chuck leaves her at her residence and hoists her into the vehicle. Chuck tells his friend, "I don't want to end our relationship." And then he continues, "I tried to kill myself on the beach too. Kelly touched my mind while I was killing myself. And when I went back, I realized I had lost her. Time taught Kelly to make her own decisions in life, and she got married. Now that she's married, Chuck is left on his own, but life must go on. Eventually, Chuck brings a package from the island. The plane drowns, and he thinks he will open the packages when he gets back to the house. However, he doesn't, and when he goes back to return the package, he finds no one. He writes a note on a piece of paper and leaves it at the door with the words, "This package saved my life." Then he walks away. Next, we see Chuck on the muddy path, studying a map. A girl who is approaching him shows him the way. Her car bears the identical wing mark as a package. Chuck is now pursuing her, and she trips the same residence where Chuck had left a paper letter. She also loses her business associate. In the future, Chuck and Bettina's federation might be accessible. Chuck has a sliver of hope in his eyes. But with that, the film's story ends.